Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Gamefromscratch, and welcome back to our ongoing Game Engines by Programming Language series. Today we're going to be looking at C#. You already see we've covered C++, Haxe, Lua, Python. We've also covered JavaScript, TypeScript, and probably Rust at the point you see this. Today we're going to end with one of the most popular programming languages out there, which is the C# programming language. As you can see, we're going to cover a number of game engines, frameworks, and bindings that use the C# programming language. Without further ado, let us jump in and take a look at what is probably the biggest player in the space, and that is the Unity game engine. Now, Unity is probably as successful as it is because it chose C# as its programming language. It's got that nice middle ground between power and expressiveness and ease of use. So I think a big part of Unity's success is definitely C# language support. They used to have other language support in there, things like Boo and JavaScript, but they've actually removed those over time. So C# is definitely at the heart of Unity. Unity is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, game engines out there. So especially if you're looking to make something in the desktop or mobile or VR space, Unity is definitely one you should check out. And again, C# is very much at the heart and core of the Unity experience. Now, another popular one, this is in the open source side of things, is the Godot game engine. Now, Godot has C# as a damned near first-class citizen. It lags behind at times, so sometimes mobile support or HTML support isn't quite there for C# versus GDScript, but for the most part, C# is very mature. It's not used quite as often as GDScript is, but you do actually get a pretty significant performance boost choosing C# over GDScript for your game logic. So if you are looking for a C# based game engine with all the features and functionality you'd want, but you prefer something on the open source side of the equation, Godot is definitely one worth checking out. Now, another one we've got out there is Unigine. Now, I love Unigine. Unigine is capable of some amazing visuals. You probably actually know them more from their heaven benchmarks than you do from the game engine side of things. But their game engine is extremely powerful. Now, the weird thing is they never really focused on being a game engine. They were more in the engineering space for the longest time. They offer a version now for gaming. Now, you can see from the priority here of how they ranked these things. So you got sim, translation, digital twin, engineering, and so on before they mention games. But that is a little bit misleading because this thing does everything that you could expect from a game engine, and C# is at the heart of it. So are C++, and I do believe JavaScript was the other option you have when dealing with Unigine. Now, another option, and I keep kind of going on the fence about including this. I included it in the C++ category, and honestly, I'm not sure that I should anymore, is CryEngine, because I have no idea the state of CryEngine. It's been like 2 or 3 years since they did their last update at GDC. And then since then, they seem to be focusing more on using CryEngine in-house for products like Hunt Showdown. So CryEngine is an extremely storied and powerful game engine going back to the age of Crysis. But the thing is, CryEngine, the company Crytek, has definitely fallen on some hard times at time, and it's hard to say exactly what is going on with CryEngine these days. Now, with CryEngine 5.0, they did move it so that C# was the preferred mechanism for doing your game logic scripting. It's just there haven't been any updates. Now, there's an insistence that things are still going on behind the scenes. So CryEngine is definitely a very capable game engine, and it is battle-tested and used to create some AAA games you've heard of. It's just, I don't know if I would sign on to use it at this point in time. Now, another option we have in the world of open-source game engines for 2D and 3D game development, we have Stride. Now, Stride is a fully open-source project right now. It used to be called Zenko, and before that, it used to be called Paradox Engine. Now, they renamed it from Paradox because it was just used too damn many times. When you see here even the X there, that was the old Zenko logo. So you can see, in effect, Silicon Studios were the owner behind this one. They open sourced it, and along with that open sourcing, they made it, they renamed it to Stride. Now, Stride is a very cool engine. It's built on C# 12 and .NET 8. It's got a community behind it. There are updates. They're a little slow at their updating. So the last real update we've got blog-wise was back in November of 2024, for example. But don't let that mislead you. It's just the community team isn't really out-facing in what they're doing. There are a lot of updates going on behind the scenes with Stride, and it's a very Unity-like editing experience, but it is also fully open source. Another one we have here is Evergine. Now, Evergine has also gone through a renaming. Once upon a time, it was called Wave Engine. Now, this one is, again, being aimed at the same kind of spaces as Unigine is. So they don't even talk about it as a game engine anymore, to be honest. So I don't know that I should be mentioning this one because, again, they don't call it a game engine anymore. But you could definitely use it in game engine. You'll see here, entertainment is a category here. The thing is, the reason why I do keep talking about it is because the engine is actually pretty awesome. And it's actually got a decent number of capabilities. And they're, again, fully cross-platform. C# is at the heart of it. Good graphics, physics integrated in, modern GPU support, you name it. This is a very cool technology. It's just not really focused on games that much anymore. And then next up, we got one of the weirdest one on this list. I'm going to revisit this game engine because it is just so damn weird. And this one is hosted out of, I believe it's Russia. It is completely free. It's completely open source. It is incredibly powerful and capable. You see the editor in action over here. It's one of those ones you're going to check it out and go, why is this so good? And then you're going to find out some really weird things about it. Like, for example, there's someone paying for this to be developed, but there's no cost to it. It is completely free to use. On top of that, the source code is just available as a zip file. I don't even think there's a license that goes with it. The whole thing is very confusing, but what makes it even more confusing is just how incredibly awesome the Falco engine actually is. It has a ton of features available for it. It's got mentions of an asset store, but I don't think there's actually, I guess there are some assets in it, but they're all more or less free. So I don't know what the hell is going on with this game engine. I don't know the business sense behind it. But I do know I have checked it out a couple of times, and every time I have walked away with my mind blown. So if you're going to pick one of these things just to go, okay, what the heck is this? Go check out Falco Engine because it's bizarre just how good it is. Now, another one that I'm really cheering for is the Flax engine. Now, this is mostly the work of one guy. There's a community behind it now for sure. And it's kind of the closest thing, but much, 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 much smaller in scope. But the closest thing to an Unreal Engine that's got this is also so again, it's source available. It's not open source, but the source code is all out there. It is commercial under a very similar license structure to Unreal Engine in that you don't pay anything until you work with it. But the thing I got to tell you about Flax is just a beautiful engine to work with. I'm amazed with how good it actually is. Supports C# and C++ as well as their own visual scripting language. It's got support for platforms like Xbox and PlayStation, so PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox, you name it. It's got a ton of capabilities. It is updated. Generally, there's a new release every 3 or 4 months. It's been a while since we have had a new Flax release now. But Flax is, again, one of the ones that impresses me. I've done a video on getting started with Flax. There's one that's Flax for Unity developers, I believe it was called. Go check that one out, and it'll give you an idea of just how actually shockingly capable this engine is. Now, another one that we've got that's, again, very odd, and I know that one of the big problems that this guy struggled with is coming up with a business model to make money off the engine, and I don't know that he ever figured out a way to do so. So that is one of the challenges with the NeoAxis engine, is it has switched business models a couple of times. It is currently free, available for a number of different engines. It has a shocking amount of capabilities. And as you can see, there was the last update was September 2024 for a new release of this engine. It is, again, a very capable, a little bit bizarre. It actually kind of reminds me of Office interface when they went to that weird ribbon world. But in terms of the capabilities of this engine, it will probably shock you in terms of what it's capable of. The weird thing with NeoAxis is, again, they've struggled so hard to find a business model to support the development behind this. And I know that's a challenge. Again, so you see what I mean? It looks a lot like Office, was it 2000, 2003? I don't know. When they moved to this ribbon look, that's one thing that sticks out to me. But it's actually a shockingly capable engine with a ton of features in it. Again, the only thing going against this one is, well, it's got some pretty big competition out there. And again, they seem to be struggling a bit with trying to monetize it. So right now, you can check it out. At least the last I saw it, you could use it completely for free. A very interesting one. Now, another one, this engine is absolutely wicked. And I hate to say it that way, but it's actually true. This actually is an incredibly cool game engine project, fully open source. You see available for a number of different platforms. There is a lightweight code editor in there. You can use Lua as C++, but also C#, which is why I'm mentioning it here today. It is a free engine. I do believe this was also the one that was used to power GameGuru as a renderer. Wicked Engine is, again, quite wicked. Now, another one we've got, and this one I've actually just got exposed to, a recommendation from a fellow mod on the Gamefromscratch Discord server, which, by the way, I would highly recommend you check out. This one is Prowl, and I know pretty much nothing about Prowl, so I'm going to have to check that one out. This is a open source Unity-like game engine for C#, written primarily using C#, and as you can see from the pictures, it actually looks pretty cool. So again, I don't really know anything about Prowl per se. I have never used it myself. It is, again, free. Number of features over here is based on .NET 8, which would be that C#6. So the version is a little bit out of date in terms of C# version, but you've got a number of different back-end renderers there, including Vulkan and Metal and OpenGL and DirectX 11. So that's the major ones there. Again, this is one that I'm going to have to go ahead and check out in more detail. It is under the MIT license. The last update was 3 months ago on the main branch, but this has been under development for quite a while. And there's a number of different branches going on there. A decent number of contributors on this one. Again, one that I have never really checked out firsthand, so I need to rectify that going into the future. And then you also see here that it's saying something about update, use .NET 9. So it could just be that this is very out of date and they've already updated to .NET 9 instead of .NET 8. So I guess we shall see. Another one we've got, and I actually just did a video on this one very recently, and this one straddles the line between game engine and game. Kind of like UEFN, for example, and it is called Sandbox. Now, this is the spiritual successor to Gary's mod. And it also integrates in Steam engine, the Source Engine 2 and Hammer Editor are integrated in there as well. So you can use this as a full-blown game editing environment. Also, you can use this to play games that other people have created. You've got features like Hot Reload, Cloud Assets, the Hammer Editor from the Valve Source Engine is included as well. Train System, there is a visual scripting option as well. This one is still under active development, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of a product it actually turns into at the end. But if you ignore all the game stuff on the front, it is basically a version of the Source Engine using C# logic on the front end. Interesting project there. Now, next one we got up here is the RBFX, also known as Rebel Fork. Now, this is a fork of Urho 3D. Urho 3D was a very interesting project that it ran into some politics. The owner of it made it Russian only, took it offline, kicked everyone out of the Discord, etc. There was definitely a nasty breakup. Now, one of the things you will find about Rebel Fork, so there is, again, 171 contributors, so this new project has definitely taken off. It is a C++ 17 engine. It does have a WYSIWYG level editor built in, and we're mentioning it today because there are optional experimental, that's one thing to keep in mind, experimental C# bindings available for this one as well. I really liked Urho 3D, and this, so you get an idea of what it actually looks like. This is, again, Rebel Fork. I need to check this one out again at some point in the future because it's been a while. Next up, we have one of the most popular C# frameworks out there, and this is Monogame. Now, Monogame is an open source port of Microsoft's XNA. Now, XNA was one of the coolest things that ever happened, and Microsoft are idiots for canceling it. But fortunately, the folks behind Monogame picked it up and ran with it. There have been a ton of commercial games created using Monogame. It uses, again, this is at its heart C# for everything. This is a free and open source project. You'll notice also supports several different consoles as well, which is very cool. So again, there are just a ton of games that were created using Monogame. You get an idea of some of them here you've definitely heard of, like Axiom Verge, and so on. Just kind of do a quick roll through of their preview. So Streets of Rage 4, for example, Geometry Wars. It's definitely a battle-tested game engine. Now, if you do not want to use Monogame, there is also FNA. Now, FNA and Monogame are both branches or forks or ports of XNA. They're not based on the original source code, so I guess they're homages, I guess you could say. Now, FNA took a different approach than Monogame did, in that FNA aims to be exactly a re-implementation of XNA. They're just made cross-platform and with bug fixes and so on. So basically, if you want to stick to the whole XNA way of doing things, that's what FNA is all about. You can see a number of different games were made with it. There's a ton of games that were actually created using FNA as well. Full list is available over here. It gives you an idea of them, but you're talking like Bastion, Apotheon, what else did Dust and Elysian Tale. A number of the most successful indie titles out there were created using either Monogame or FNA. And I love XNA. XNA is actually what got me started doing this kind of stuff. I actually did tutorials for XNA, and that's what kind of led to Gamefromscratch being a thing. So high recommendation there. Now, another one that I've recently just learned about is Moonworks. Now, Moonworks is inspired by FNA, and FNA is inspired by XNA. Yeah, we got lots of relationships going on here. Free implementation of Microsoft's XNA. Moonworks wraps native code implementations in managed C# for high-level abstractions that still run fast. It's simple, and it tries to stay out of your way as much as possible. Moonworks does provide the components you need to implement a functioning game, window management, input graphics, 3D math, utilities, and audio. Does not include built-in physics engine, a GUI editor, or so on. That's true of XNA and Monogame as well, by the way. I don't specifically know why this exists as opposed to FNA. I don't know why the fork or the process of creating a new project, but this is being very actively developed, as you can see right there. Not that many contributors to it. This is a project that I honestly don't know too much about, but it is in the same family as Monogame and XNA. Another one we have is Flat Red Ball. Now, I think I did a video about Flat Red Ball a couple of years ago. This thing has been around forever. How long forever? It's been refined over 2 decades. It is a 2D game engine. There is editors available for it. It utilizes C# as the programming language. It's got integration with .NET and NuGet for package management. It is a very interesting project. It's been used to create some successful shipped games. You can see some of the examples down here. It's been, again, 2 decades in development. It is a very interesting project. I would definitely recommend giving this one a look if you haven't already. But yeah, that is Flat Red Ball. It's actually got, I think, some decent 3D functionality built in it as well, even though this is ultimately a 2D game engine. And as you can see, very actively under development and is under the MIT license, which is quite nice, and a decent number of contributors behind this project as well. Then we've got 2 that fall under the asterisk categories. These are coming soon or promised features or maybes. And this first one here is Defold. Now, I love the Defold game engine, and at the heart of Defold is Lua. And I know a number of people are not that keen on Lua, but Defold also comes with some amazing tooling. It's got one of the most polished, pretty editors you've ever seen. And here what you'll see is it's got C# support for you doing extensions or game logic. Now, important thing to keep in mind is it's not technically scripting. So you're kind of writing extensions that you then access. So you're probably going to have to write a little bit of Lua code to make this work. But there is C+ and C++ support being added to the Defold game engine. This was actually announced quite a while ago. It is available in beta form, not technically a full release, but I'm including it anyways, just like I am including this one, which is GameMaker. Now, GameMaker, Defold is out. It's a thing. I believe in it 100%. This one's a little bit more tentative. But one of the new features that they're talking about with this guy going forward is that the addition of C# support. I don't know where it is in the description, so let's just find it. There we go. So they're adding something called the new runtime. It's got open beta for it. So they're adding experimental support for JavaScript to GameMaker as well as C#. But this is towards the end of next year. This is being announced. Now, keep in mind that was in 2024, so that means late 2025, GameMaker should start seeing C# support. Now, GameMaker is one of those seminal 2D GameMaker projects. Been around forever. Again, has a huge title. The number of games have been shipped using it. Traditionally, you used either their visual programming language or GameMaker script. So it's cool to see GameMaker adding programming support for other languages. The cool thing here is if JavaScript already exists, it means much more likely that C# will come as well. So one of those things to be aware of, but technically not a C# game engine as of yet. And then we have the Shape engine. I did a video about this one earlier on. This is actually based on the Raylib framework, a C library that is available on pretty much every platform with language binding, spoiler alert, for just about every programming language out there. But Shape engine is something pretty unique in that it is made for making vector-based games. So if you're trying to create something like Geometry Wars, that is what it's all about. You can see an example of creating said games. This is entirely done in C#. It just uses Raylib as the rendering library behind the scenes. Again, I did a video on this one, I think about a half a year ago. It is a very cool, interesting project. Also very niche, just on the fact that it's geometry only. So this isn't for doing sprite-based games. Totally just for geometric shape games. But Shape Engine is an interesting one. And I think that is the end of the engines and frameworks segment, and now we're going to get into a little bonus section. No, it's not. There's one more. Okay, and then we'll get into the bonus section of bindings. So we've also got sharpGDX. Now this is a C# port of libGDX. Now libGDX is the coolest Java library out there. Used to create a number of titles, probably the most famous of which was Slay the Spire. It is the game engine that really started this channel, because I did a bunch of libGDX tutorials back in the day, which I think are actually still mostly valid, by the way. And it is a lovely framework to work with. Now, the one funny thing about libGDX is libGDX was ultimately inspired by, all right, let's get the family tree going even further, XNA. So Microsoft's XNA was kind of at the heart of inspiring so many indie libraries and frameworks. And it was just such a pleasure to work with. So libGDX was inspired by the XNA framework, and then sharpGDX is a kind of a weird coming back to home port. So this is a C# framework inspired by a Java framework, which was inspired by a C# framework. Small world we live in. But it's an interesting one. A bit on the smaller side here. It is being actively developed. No contributors, though, so it's definitely a smallish project, but one to definitely be aware of. And now we're into the bindings. So these are mostly going to be C frameworks, one C++ in there as well. And there's no doubt more that I have missed. By the way, if you have a framework, engine, or binding that I missed that you would recommend, let it know in the comments down below. At least then maybe in 5 years when I update this list again, I will get it that time. Also do keep in mind, I'm only talking about things that are currently still being developed. So if there hasn't been a commit to it in the last, say, 6 or 7 months, with the exception of CryEngine, which I'm giving a bonus category to, it probably won't make the list. So it has to still be under active development. The first one we have here is C# bindings for SDL. Now the important thing here is SDL 3 was just released. And so SDL3 bindings for C# are already available. Now, there are a lot less bindings for SDL3 at this point than there were for 2. So if we go here back to 2, you're going to find there's a ton of language bindings, including, of course, C#. But for SDL3, the new version of it, there are already C# bindings available. Now, SDL is being used, Valve use it for pretty much all of their titles for window management, input handling, cross-platform joysticks, that kind of stuff. It does pretty much all of the plumbing that you need for your game. So having language bindings here, if you're writing your own engine, using something like SDL as like a building block is a huge time saver. Another one we have is SFML. This also has a ton of bindings available as well. You're going to see that it has C# or .NET, which is kind of all of them. The bindings are showing for 2.6 though, and I think that is now SFML 3 is the current, but I don't know if this just hasn't been updated. So I don't know if there are C# bindings yet for SFML3, so you might be stuck using 2.6. Just one of those things to be aware of. SFML and SDL are very similar in what they do. One of the major differences, SDL, C, SFML, C++. But if you're working with another set of bindings, here you go. Now, interesting thing here is the CSFML and SFML.NET are official bindings, and a lot of the rest of these are community bindings. So it's more supported than most other languages are. And I mentioned it earlier on, and here it's back. Raylib. So Raylib is, I love it. It's a great beginner-friendly approach to game development. Now, interestingly enough, I think Raylib was inspired by two very fundamental programming language or libraries that came from my past. I think XNA was one of the inspirations for it, as well as the Borland graphics interface, which is, you can see it in the way that everything is set up here. It's very simple to learn and use. This is really all the documentation you need to get up and going with it. It provides all of the functionality you need. It is available on all of the platforms that you want. And what you'll notice here is there are a ton of language bindings. Specifically, there are 60 language bindings for Raylib, but you'll notice which one it showed first. Yeah, C#. So very, very prominent support here for Raylib, for C# developers. And like you saw, it was used in that Shape engine earlier on. They used the C# bindings to make things work. And then we have Allegro. Now, Allegro is, again, like SFML and SDL. Similar concept, is written in C++ and C#. So, sorry, C and C++. And it has C# bindings available. So you see Allegro.net is available there. And earlier versions have C# and a variety of versions of it available as well. So there are a ton of language bindings out there for 2D libraries. And then one 3D framework I want to talk about as well is Ogre. Now, Ogre has been used the basis of a number of other games or kind of rolling your own game engines. I believe the Torchlight series, for example, uses Ogre. It is a 3D frame graph and rendering engine. So it's not a full-blown game engine, but it's a lot of the pieces of the game engine. And the thing you're going to want to notice is this line down here. Now, they don't let you zoom in on their webpage because modern CSS sucks donkey balls, but you'll see, furthermore, Ogre comes with bindings for Python, Java, and C# out of the box. So if you want, you can use Ogre with those. Ogre is a fully open source project as well, by the way. So that is today's list. That is a bunch of C# game engines and frameworks and some bindings. Again, everything that we talked about here is available. You'll notice these asterisk ones, they are like semi, or they're coming soon, or I kind of included them and maybe shouldn't have, just so you know. But all of the things we just talked about here are linked off this page. If I've covered it more, I think I'll put learn more links in here as well. And you will notice eventually I will have this game engine section updated to include the C# and the JavaScript, TypeScript, as well as Rust. And then I think I'm probably done, unless you guys are interested in hearing about any other particular languages, but they'd have to have enough game engines and frameworks to make at least like a 10-minute video. So that kind of makes it so that, I don't know, Go or D language, there's not really a lot out there, so they're hard to cover. I am contemplating the idea of doing a visual scripting language-based one, so let me know what you're interested in seeing, and hopefully I introduce you to a new C#-based game engine. Again, if you have other recommendations, do let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to add them at the very least to this list. And then I looked at the list of this I did back in 2018 as a starting point for this one. Sadly, some engines have definitely died off, but I will do the same thing the next time I revisit this, and hopefully I'll do this again maybe in 2016, maybe not so long between releases. But let me know what you think of this series and of C# for game development. Comments down below. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.